The chains were cold against his wrists. Kang Do-yun kept his eyes forward as the guards dragged him through the endless corridors of the alien ship. His uniform was torn and stained with blood. Some of it was his. Most of it belonged to his crew members, who would never breathe again. 3 days ago, he had been the pilot of humanity's first diplomatic vessel. The mission was simple. Travel to the edge of known space. Make contact with the Valari Empire. Show them that humans came in peace. The Valari had responded with weapons fire. Do-yun remembered the screams. He remembered Captain Park giving the order to retreat. He remembered the explosion that tore through the ship and killed everyone except him. Why had he survived? He did not know. Perhaps the universe had a cruel sense of humor. The guards stopped before a massive door. It was made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered its surface. One guard pressed his hand against a panel, and the door slid open with a low hum. The throne room was enormous. Do-hyun had never seen anything like it. The ceiling stretched so high that it disappeared into darkness. Thousands of aliens filled the space, standing in perfect rows on either side of a long walkway. They all looked similar: tall, slender, skin the color of pale silver, eyes that glowed with soft blue light. At the far end of the room sat a throne carved from what looked like crystal. On it sat the largest Valari Do-yun had seen. His robes were black and gold. A crown of twisted metal rested on his head. His eyes burned brighter than the others. Emperor Vorath. The guards threw Do-hyun to the floor before the throne. He landed hard on his knees. Pain shot through his body, but he did not cry out. He would not give them that satisfaction. "So this is a human," the emperor said. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "I expected something more impressive." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Do-yun slowly pushed himself up. He stood on shaking legs and looked directly at the emperor. The laughter died. "You dare to stand in my presence?" Vorath leaned forward. "You dare to look upon me with those primitive eyes?" Do-yun said nothing. What was there to say? His crew was dead. His mission had failed. His species had just made an enemy that could crush them without effort. Words seemed meaningless now. "Your kind is a disease," the emperor continued. "We have watched you for generations. We have seen how you spread across your little world, how you fight each other, how you destroy everything you touch. We will not allow you to infect the stars." Still, Do-hyun remained silent. He simply stood there, bleeding and broken, meeting the gaze of the most powerful being he had ever encountered. "Tomorrow you will die," Vorath declared. "Your execution will be broadcast across the empire. Every species under our rule will see what happens to vermin who venture into our space. Take him away." The guards grabbed Do-hyun's arms. As they dragged him back toward the door, he noticed something. A figure standing in the shadows near the throne. Another Valari, but smaller than the others. A female. She wore robes of deep purple, and her eyes were fixed on him with an expression he could not read. For just a moment, their gazes met. Then the guards pulled him through the door, and she was gone. The cell was small and cold. A single light in the ceiling provided weak illumination. There was no bed, no window, just 4 walls and a heavy door. Do-yun sat in the corner and closed his eyes. He thought about Earth, about his mother's cooking, about the way Seoul looked at night with all its lights glittering like stars, about the friends he had left behind. Would they ever know what happened to him? A sound interrupted his thoughts. A groan. It came from somewhere nearby. Do-yun opened his eyes and listened. There it was again. Weak, pained. He moved to the door and pressed his ear against it. The sound was coming from the corridor outside. Someone was hurt. Through the small gap at the bottom of the door, Do-yun could see a sliver of the hallway. A Valari guard lay on the floor just a few meters away. The alien was clutching his side. Blue liquid seeped between his fingers. Blood, Do-hyun realized. Valari blood was blue. The guard must have collapsed. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he had been injured somehow. It did not matter. What mattered was that no one else seemed to be around. Do-yun could have done nothing. He could have watched the guard die and felt justice for his murdered crew. Instead, he found himself reaching through the bars of his cell door. "Hey," he called softly. "Can you hear me?" The guard turned his head. His glowing eyes were dim with pain. He looked confused, like he could not understand why the prisoner was speaking to him. You need to call for help, Do-yun said. Is there a button? A communicator? The guard stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly he reached for a device on his belt. He pressed something, and a signal beeped. Within minutes, other guards arrived and carried him away. Do-yun sat back in his cell. He did not know why he had helped. The guard would have watched him die tomorrow without feeling anything. Perhaps that was exactly why Do-yun had done it, because he refused to become like them. Somewhere in the ship, Princess Yura watched the cell's surveillance feed on her private screen. She had accessed it out of curiosity. She wanted to see how the human would spend his final hours. Would he weep? Would he rage against his fate? Would he beg the walls for mercy? She had not expected this. The human had helped his enemy, a guard who would have killed him without hesitation, a member of the species that had murdered his friends, and he had helped him anyway. Yura leaned back in her chair. She had studied humans in secret for years. She had read their literature, listened to their music, learned about their history. Her father called them monsters. Her teachers called them primitive. Her society called them a threat to be eliminated. But monsters did not help their enemies. She watched Do-yun sit back in his cell. He was not crying. He was not screaming. He simply sat there, calm and quiet, waiting for death with a dignity that most Valari would admire. Something stirred in her chest, something that felt like doubt. Tomorrow this human would die. Her father had commanded it. The Empire demanded it. Everything she had ever known told her this was right and proper. So why did it feel so wrong? Yura turned off the screen. She stared at her reflection in the dark surface. The face that looked back at her was troubled, uncertain. For the first time in her life, Princess Yura of the Valari Empire wondered if her father might be making a terrible mistake. The execution was scheduled for dawn. In 6 hours, Kang Do-yun would be dead. He lay on the cold floor of his cell, staring at the ceiling. Sleep would not come. Not that it mattered. He would have plenty of time to sleep soon. Forever, in fact. He wondered how they would do it. Would it be quick? Would it hurt? He hoped it would be fast. He was not afraid of death. He was afraid of dying badly, of screaming, of giving them something to laugh about. A soft sound made him sit up. The door to his cell was opening. Do-yun scrambled to his feet. Had they changed the schedule? Were they coming for him early? A figure stepped through the doorway. It was not a guard. It was the female he had seen in the throne room, the one in the purple robes. She moved quietly like a shadow and the door closed behind her, with barely a whisper. "Who are you?" Do-hyun asked. She raised a hand to silence him. Then she touched something on her wrist, and a faint shimmer surrounded them both. "Privacy field," she said. Her voice was softer than he expected. "No one can hear us now." Do-hyun studied her face. Up close, she looked young. Younger than him, maybe. Her silver skin was flawless, and her blue eyes held an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "My name is Yura," she said. "I am the Emperor's daughter." Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. The princess. He was standing in front of the princess of the entire empire, the daughter of the man who had ordered his death. "Have you come to watch me suffer before the execution?" he asked. There was no anger in his voice, just tiredness. Yura's expression flickered. Something like hurt crossed her features. "No," she said quietly. "I have come to set you free." For a long moment, Do-yun did not respond. He was certain he had heard wrong. This had to be some kind of trick, some cruel game to give him hope before crushing it. "Why would you do that?" he finally asked. Yura took a step closer. "I saw what you did with the guard. You helped him even though he is your enemy, even though he would have let you die. So that is not what a monster would do." Her voice grew stronger. "My whole life I have been taught that humans are dangerous, that you are savages who will destroy everything if given the chance. But I have studied your kind. I have read your stories and heard your music. I know there is more to you than what my father believes." Do-yun shook his head slowly. "You would betray your own father? Your own people? For a stranger?" "My father is wrong," Yura said. "He has been wrong about many things for a very long time. The Empire has conquered dozens of species. We have destroyed cultures that existed for thousands of years. We call ourselves civilized, but we are the real monsters. She paused. I cannot stop all of that, but I can save you. Tonight. Doyun looked at her for a long time. She was serious. He could see it in her eyes. This was not a trap. This was real. And yet he found himself stepping back. No, he said. Yira blinked. What? I said no. I will not let you do this. You would rather die? She sounded confused, almost angry. Of course not. But if you help me escape, what happens to you? Your father will find out. He will punish you, maybe even kill you. Do-yun shook his head. I am not worth that. You should not destroy your life for someone you do not even know. Yira stared at him like he had grown a second head. In her entire life, no one had ever refused something she offered. Certainly not a prisoner facing death. Every instinct told her that lesser beings should grovel for survival. They should beg and plead and promise anything. But this human was worried about her. You are very strange, she said finally. I have been told that before. A small smile touched her lips. It was the first time she had smiled in days. My mind is already made. I am doing this whether you agree or not. The only question is whether you will come with me or force me to drag you. Do-yun studied her face. She meant it. There was no changing her decision. Fine, he said, but I have one condition. Name it. There are other prisoners on this ship. I saw them when the guards brought me in. Beings from other species, all waiting to be executed like me. If we are doing this, we save them too. All of them. Yira's eyes widened. Do you understand what you are asking? Freeing you alone is dangerous enough. Freeing a dozen prisoners is almost impossible. Then we do the impossible. Do-yun met her gaze steadily. I am not leaving anyone behind. If you want me to come with you, that is my price. For a moment, Yira said nothing. She thought about the risk, the difficulty, the near certainty of failure. Everything told her to refuse. To take the human and run while she still could. But looking into his eyes, she saw something that stopped her, a fire that had nothing to do with survival. This human truly believed that every life mattered, even the lives of strangers from species he had never met, even if saving them might cost him his own freedom. Her teachers had called humans primitive. Her father had called them dangerous. But in this moment, Yira thought that perhaps humans were something else entirely, something her people had forgotten how to be. Very well, she said. We save them all. She pulled a small device from her robes and handed it to him. This is a communicator. When you hear 3 beeps, move to the door. I will unlock it remotely. From there, follow the corridor to the left. The other holding cells are in that direction. I will meet you there. Do-yun took the device. What are you going to do? Create a distraction. She moved toward the door, then paused. Human, Do-yun. Thank you. For what? For reminding me what courage looks like. She touched her wrist, and the privacy field dissolved. Then she was gone, the door closing silently behind her. Do-yun stood alone in his cell, holding the communicator. His heart was pounding. 6 hours ago, he had accepted death. Now somehow, he was planning an escape with an alien princess he had just met. Life was very strange sometimes. He closed his eyes and thought about his crew, about Captain Park and the others who had died believing in their mission of peace. They had come to this empire hoping to build bridges. They had died for that hope, but maybe their sacrifice was not meaningless. Maybe something new was beginning here, in this cold cell, on this enemy ship, a connection between 2 species that should have been enemies. Do-yun gripped the communicator tightly. He would not waste this chance. He would not let their deaths be for nothing. Whatever happened next, he would face it with his eyes open and his head held high. The communicator buzzed once, twice, 3 times. He moved to the door. The door slid open without a sound. Do-yun stepped into the corridor and looked both ways. The lights were dim, and alarms echoed somewhere far above. Yira's distraction was working. He moved left, just as she had instructed. His bare feet made no noise on the metal floor. Every shadow seemed like a threat. Every distant sound made his heart race faster. The holding cells appeared after 2 turns. A row of heavy doors lined the wall, each one sealed with glowing locks. Through the small windows, Dohyun could see figures moving inside. The other prisoners. A soft voice came from behind him. "You made it." He spun around. Yura stood there, her purple robes replaced with simple gray clothing. She looked different without the royal trappings. More real, more vulnerable. "What was the distraction?" he asked. "I set fire to my father's private library." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "He will be very angry." Before Do-hyun could respond, Yura moved to the first cell door. She pressed her hand against the lock, and it clicked open. Inside was a creature he did not recognize. It was short and covered in thick brown fur, with 4 arms and large black eyes. "You are free," Yura said. "Follow us if you want to live." The creature hesitated for only a moment. Then it nodded and stepped out. They moved down the row, opening cell after cell. Each prisoner was different. Some were tall and thin like the Valari. Others were massive and covered in scales. One looked almost like a cloud of living smoke. All of them had been condemned to death. All of them chose to follow. The 8th cell held a surprise. When the door opened, Do-hyun found himself looking at a human face. A young woman with short black hair and fierce dark eyes. She wore the torn remains of what looked like an engineer's uniform. "You are human," he said, stating the obvious. "So are you." She stepped out of the cell and looked him up and down. "I thought I was the only one left." "I thought the same thing. What is your name?" "Bora. Kim Bora. I was on the colony ship Horizon. The Valari captured us 3 months ago." Her voice was steady, but Do-hyun could see the pain behind her eyes. "There were 200 of us. Now there is just me." Do-hyun felt his chest tighten. Another ship, another crew, another massacre. "I am sorry," he said. "It was not enough. It would never be enough." "Save it for later." Bora looked past him at the strange group of prisoners gathering in the corridor. "Are we escaping or having a meeting?" "Escaping," Yura said. "The shuttle bay is 4 levels down. There is a ship there that I have prepared, but we need to move now. My distraction will not last much longer." They moved as one through the corridors of the great ship. Yura led the way, her knowledge of the vessel guiding them through passages that avoided the main routes. Do-hyun stayed at the back, making sure no one fell behind. Bora walked beside him, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. "The princess," Bora whispered. "Why is she helping us?" Do-hyun glanced at Yura's back. "I am not entirely sure. I think she believes her empire is wrong." "And you trust her?" "I do not have much choice." They reached a junction where 4 corridors met. Yura raised her hand, signaling everyone to stop. She listened carefully. Footsteps echoed from somewhere ahead. "Guard," she whispered. 6 of them. They are between us and the shuttle bay." "Can we go around?" Do-hyun asked. "No. This is the only path." The group fell silent. 12 escaped prisoners against 6 armed guards. The math was not good. Most of them had no weapons. Most of them were weak from imprisonment. Bora stepped forward. "I can help." She moved to a panel on the wall and pried it open. Inside was a mess of wires and circuits. Her fingers moved with practiced speed, pulling and connecting and rearranging. "What are you doing?" Yura asked. "Evening the odds." Bora made one final adjustment. "When I give the signal, close your eyes and cover your ears." She did not wait for agreement. She simply started walking toward the junction. Do-hyun reached out to stop her, but she was already gone. The guards spotted her immediately. They raised their weapons and shouted commands. Bora raised her hands in surrender, looking helpless and defeated. Then she snapped her fingers. Every light in the corridor exploded. A massive boom echoed through the ship. Do-hyun squeezed his eyes shut, but he still saw white through his eyelids. His ears rang painfully. When he opened his eyes again, the guards were on the floor. They were alive but stunned, clutching their eyes and ears in pain. Bora stood over them, calmly collecting their weapons. "An engineer learns many tricks," she said, tossing a weapon to Do-hyun. "Now let us go." They ran. The shuttle bay was close now. Do-hyun could feel hope building in his chest, dangerous and fragile. They burst through the final door and found themselves in a massive hangar. Ships of all sizes filled the space. Yura pointed to a small vessel in the corner. It was sleek and fast-looking, painted the same gray as her clothes. There, that is our way out. They were halfway to the ship when the voice echoed through the hangar. Yira! Everyone froze. Doyun turned to see a figure standing at the entrance they had just come through, a Vilari male in black armor, holding a weapon that glowed with deadly light. Commander Reth, Yira breathed. The commander stepped forward. His eyes swept over the group of escaped prisoners before settling on the princess. I trained you better than this, child. Did you really think you could run without me noticing? I hoped you would look the other way. Yira's voice was steady, but Do-hyun could see her hands trembling. I cannot do that. You know I cannot. Reth raised his weapon. Come with me now, and I will tell the Emperor you were kidnapped. The humans forced you. You are innocent. And the prisoners? They die, as scheduled. Yira shook her head slowly. Then I am not coming. Reth's expression hardened. Do not be a fool. Your father will... A plasma bolt struck the floor near his feet. Reth spun to see Do-hyun holding one of the stolen weapons. His aim was steady. She said no, Do-hyun said. Now step aside, or the next shot will not miss. Reth stared at him. Then incredibly he laughed. A human threatens me. A tiny, weak, primitive human. He raised his own weapon. Very well. Let us see what you are made of. The shot took Do-hyun in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He stumbled backward, the weapon falling from his grip. Yira screamed his name, but Do-hyun did not fall. He gritted his teeth against the agony and forced himself to stay upright. Blood poured from the wound, soaking his shirt. His vision blurred. He looked at Reth. The commander seemed surprised that he was still standing. Is that all you have? Do-hyun asked through clenched teeth. Reth raised his weapon again, but before he could fire, the other prisoners surged forward. The small, furry creature leaped onto his arm. The scaled giant tackled his legs. Within seconds, he was buried under a pile of beings who had decided that this human had earned their loyalty. Go! The furry creature shouted. We will hold him! Bora grabbed Do-hyun's good arm and pulled him toward the ship. Yira was already at the controls, powering up the engines. The ramp lowered, and they stumbled aboard. The other prisoners followed, scrambling up the ramp one by one. Reth was fighting free of his attackers, but it was too late. The last of them made it inside. The ship lifted off the hangar floor. Yira guided it toward the massive doors that led to open space. Guards fired at them from below, but the shots bounced harmlessly off the hull. Then they were through. The blackness of space surrounded them. Stars glittered in the distance. Behind them, the massive shape of the Imperial flagship grew smaller and smaller. Do-hyun slumped against the wall, clutching his wounded shoulder. Bora knelt beside him, already working to stop the bleeding. You are an idiot, she said, jumping in front of a shot like that. He was going to kill her. Bora looked at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head and almost smiled. Like I said, an idiot. In the pilot's seat, Yira set a course for the unknown reaches of space. Her hands were shaking. Her father would never forgive her. She was an exile now, a traitor to her own kind. But looking back at the human who had taken a shot for her, she found that she did not care. They had made it. Against all odds, they had escaped. Now they just had to survive. The abandoned mining station floated in the darkness like a forgotten skeleton. Its lights were dead. Its corridors were empty. Dust covered everything. It was perfect. Yira guided the ship into a docking bay that had not been used in decades. The moment the engines died, silence fell over the group. They had been running for 3 days straight, jumping from system to system to avoid the Empire's hunters. Do-hyun's wound had gotten worse. The plasma had burned deep into his shoulder, and infection was setting in. He could barely walk now. Bora had done what she could, but she was an engineer, not a doctor. We need to rest here, Yira said. The station's power core is dead, but I can restart it. There should be supplies somewhere. Maybe medical equipment. No one argued. They were all exhausted. The group spread out through the station. The furry creature with 4 arms, whose name was Taku, went to search for food. The scaled giant called Gren worked on sealing the broken sections of the hull. The others found places to sleep. Yira stayed with Do-hyun. He was lying on a makeshift bed of old blankets, his face pale and covered in sweat. The wound on his shoulder looked angry and red. You should rest too, he said weakly. You have not slept since we escaped. Neither have you. I am resting right now. Yura shook her head. You are dying right now. That is different. Always so cheerful. He managed a small smile. Tell me something. Why did you really save me? The truth this time. Yura was quiet for a moment. She sat down beside his bed and looked at her hands. They were dirty now, covered in grease and dust from working on the ship. A week ago, servants had cleaned her hands every morning with special oils. When I was young, she began, my father took me to watch an execution, a leader from a conquered world. He had tried to organize a rebellion. My father wanted me to see what happened to those who defied the empire. She paused. The memory still hurt. The leader did not beg. He did not cry. He looked at my father and said, you can kill my body, but you cannot kill what I believe. Then they killed him. I was supposed to feel proud, supposed to feel that justice had been done. Instead, I felt sick. You were just a child. I was old enough to know that something was wrong. After that, I started reading, learning, studying species that my people had destroyed. I found human literature, human music, human art, and I realized that we were not superior. We were just stronger. There is a difference. Do-yoon reached out with his good hand and touched her arm. You are nothing like them. I am exactly like them. I have their blood, their history, their sins. She met his eyes. But I can choose to be different. That is what you taught me in that cell. When you helped the guard who would have killed you, you showed me that we always have a choice. Before Do-yoon could respond, Bora appeared in the doorway. Her face was tense. We have a problem. A ship just entered the system. The control room was cold and dark, lit only by a single flickering screen. Bora had managed to get the station's sensors working. Now they all stared at the display showing a ship moving toward them. Imperial Hunter class, Yura said. Her voice was flat, fast and heavily armed, designed to track escaped prisoners. Can we run? Taku asked. No, our ship is too damaged. We would not make it to the jump point. Do-yoon forced himself to stand, ignoring the pain that screamed through his body. Then we fight. With what? Gren rumbled. We have 3 weapons between 12 of us. That ship carries 50 soldiers. Then we hide. Use the station against them. Make them pay for every step. Yura was already shaking her head. You do not understand. That ship belongs to Commander Reth. He is the best hunter in the Empire. He trained me. He knows how I think. Then think differently. Everyone turned to look at Bora. She was studying the sensor display with narrow eyes. The commander knows how Yura thinks, she said, but he does not know how humans think. Let him come. Let him search. And while he is looking for what he expects to find, we give him something he does not expect. Such as? Yura asked. Bora smiled. It was not a nice smile. Let me show you. An hour later, Commander Reth's ship docked with the station. The airlock hissed open, and soldiers poured into the dusty corridors. They moved in perfect formation, weapons ready, searching every room. Reth walked behind them. He was patient. He had been hunting prey for longer than most of his soldiers had been alive. He knew that Yura was clever. He knew she would have set traps, but he also knew her weakness. She cared too much. She would not sacrifice her companions to save herself. All he had to do was find one of them, and the rest would surrender. Sir, one of his soldiers called. We found something. Reth moved forward. The soldier was pointing at a door that stood slightly open. Through the gap, Reth could see a figure lying on the floor. Human, male. The one who had defied him in the hangar. He is wounded, the soldier said. Probably dying. The princess must have left him behind. Reth studied the scene. It was almost too perfect. The wounded human, abandoned and helpless. An obvious trap, but the human really was wounded. The sensors on Reth's armor confirmed it. Infection, fever. He would be dead within days without treatment. Bring him, Reth ordered, but carefully. 2 soldiers moved forward. They grabbed the human and started to drag him out. The human groaned but did not resist. That was when everything went wrong. The floor beneath the soldiers collapsed. They fell screaming into darkness. Explosions echoed through the station. Lights flickered and died. Emergency doors slammed shut, separating Reth from half his force, and then the real attack began. The prisoners struck from the shadows. Taku dropped from the ceiling onto a soldier's back. Gren came through a wall, scattering enemies like toys. The smoke creature flowed into helmets, blinding and choking. And in the middle of the chaos, Do-hyun rose to his feet. He was not dying. The fever was real, but Bora had found medicine in the station's supplies. It was buying him time. Enough time for this. "Hello again," Do-hyun said. Reth raised his weapon, but Yira was faster. She emerged from hiding and knocked the weapon from his hand. For a long moment, teacher and student faced each other. "You cannot win," Reth said. "Even if you defeat us here, my ship has already sent word to the fleet. They will hunt you across the galaxy." "Then let them hunt." Yira's voice was steady. "I am done hiding from what is right." Reth studied her face. He had known her since she was a child. He had taught her to fight, to think, to survive. In some ways, she was more his daughter than the Emperor's, and now she was asking him to choose. His hand moved toward a hidden weapon. Yira tensed, ready to defend herself. But Reth did not attack. Instead, he pulled out a small device and crushed it in his fist. The light on his armor went dark. "My tracking beacon," he said quietly. "They will think I am dead. It will buy you a few days." Yira stared at him. "Why?" "Because you were always the best of us." He stepped back, hands raised. "Go, child. Run far. Change the galaxy if you can. But never come back." He turned and walked away, leaving his scattered soldiers behind. In the chaos and confusion, no one stopped him. An hour later, the escaped prisoners were back on their ship, speeding away from the station. Reth's vessel was disabled, his remaining soldiers locked in a storage bay. Do-hyun sat in the medical bay, a proper treatment device working on his shoulder. Yira stood beside him, staring out the window at the stars. "He let us go," she said softly. "I still cannot believe it. Maybe he is not as different from you as you thought." Yira turned to look at him. "You planned this, the trap, the attack. You knew he would hesitate." "I hoped. There is a difference." Do-hyun smiled weakly. "Humans are good at hoping." She sat down beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "What happens now?" she finally asked. "Now we find others like us, others who believe the Empire is wrong, and we give them something to believe in. A revolution, a choice." He met her eyes. "The same choice you gave me in that cell, the choice to be different." Outside the window, the stars stretched on forever. Somewhere out there, an empire waited, an enemy that controlled 1,000 worlds. But in this small ship, something new was being born, something that would change everything. They just did not know it yet. 6 months had passed since the escape. 6 months of running, hiding, and surviving. But somewhere along the way, something had changed. The space station called Haven floated in a pocket of space that belonged to no empire. It was a refuge for outcasts, criminals, and dreamers. Thousands of beings from dozens of species called it home, and now it was about to become something more. Do-hyun stood at the edge of the main gathering hall, watching the crowd pour in. There were hundreds of them. Representatives from 12 different species, all conquered by the Valari Empire, all living under its shadow, all looking for a way out. "Nervous?" Bora asked, appearing beside him. "Terrified," he admitted. "I am a pilot. I was trained to fly ships, not lead revolutions." "Nobody is trained to lead revolutions. They just happen when good people get tired of being afraid." She punched his arm lightly. "Besides, you will not be alone up there." She nodded toward the platform at the center of the hall. Yira was already standing there, waiting. The silver of her skin caught the light. She looked calm, but Do-hyun knew better. He could see the tension in her shoulders. "She is braver than I am," he said. "Different kind of brave," Bora replied. "You take bullets for people. She is about to stand in front of her own kind's victims and ask for their trust. I am not sure which is harder." A tone sounded through the hall. The crowd fell silent. It was time. Do-hyun made his way through the gathering and climbed onto the platform. He took his place beside Yira. From up here, he could see every face in the crowd. Some looked hopeful, some looked suspicious, some looked angry. He understood. These beings had lost everything to the Empire, their homes, their families, their freedom, and now they were being asked to follow a princess of that same empire. It would not be easy. Yura stepped forward. Her voice rang out clear and strong. I know what you see when you look at me. You see the face of your enemy, the face of those who took everything from you. I cannot change that. I cannot take back what my people have done. She paused. But I can tell you what I have learned. The crowd was utterly still. I was raised to believe that the Valari were superior, that we had the right to conquer and rule because we were stronger, smarter, better. I believed this for most of my life. She lowered her head. I was wrong. A murmur rippled through the gathering. My people are not superior. We are simply powerful. And we have used that power to destroy cultures that were beautiful and ancient. We have silenced voices that deserve to be heard. We have committed crimes that can never be forgiven. She raised her head and looked out at the crowd. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am not asking you to forget what has been done. I am asking for a chance to stand beside you, a chance to fight against the empire that raised me, a chance to help build something new. Silence hung over the hall. Then a voice called out from the crowd. Why should we trust you? How do we know this is not a trick? Yura turned toward the speaker. It was a being from a species called the Moreth, their world one of the first the Valari had conquered. You have no reason to trust me, Yura said honestly. I have given you nothing but words, but I am willing to earn your trust. Tell me what you need and I will provide it. Tell me what the Empire took from you, and I will help you take it back. What about him? Another voice pointing at Do-hyun. The human. Why is he here? Do-hyun stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. I am here because the Empire murdered my crew. 30 good people who came in peace. They were killed because the Valari feared what humans might become. He looked out at the gathered faces. I am also here because Princess Yura saved my life. She gave up everything she had to free me and the others who were going to be executed. He gestured to the side of the hall where Taku, Gren, and the other escaped prisoners stood watching. Those beings over there were strangers to me. Different species, different worlds, different languages. But Yura freed them too. Not because she had to, not because it was safe, but because it was right. The Morath who had spoken before stepped forward. Pretty words, but words do not win wars. No, Do-hyun agreed, but they can start revolutions. And revolutions do not need armies. They need people who believe in something. People who are willing to stand up, even when standing up seems impossible. He paused, thinking of his crew, of Captain Park, of everyone who had died believing in a better future. The Empire has ships and soldiers and weapons. They have power, but power is not everything. The Empire also has secrets, terrible things they have done and hidden away, things that their own citizens do not know about. He looked at Yura. She has those secrets. She brought them with her when she left. Yura nodded and touched a control on her wrist. Holographic images appeared in the air above the crowd. Documents, records, videos. Genocide on 17 worlds, she said. Experiments on living beings. The assassination of leaders who tried to surrender peacefully. All hidden from the public. All covered up. Her voice hardened. My father's empire is built on lies. If we show the truth to the galaxy, everything will change. The crowd stared at the floating evidence. Faces that had been suspicious slowly shifted to something else. Shock, anger, hope. The Morath stepped forward again, but this time their voice was different. I lost my daughter in the conquest of our world. She was 7 years old. The official records say she died in an accident. They pointed at one of the holographic documents. That record there says they took her for experiments. Yura bowed her head. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I do not want your apology. The Morath straightened their shoulders. I want justice. If you can help me get justice for my daughter, then I will stand with you. One by one, others stepped forward. Each one had lost something. Each one had been waiting for a chance to fight back. And now, finally, that chance had come. By the end of the gathering, a new alliance had been formed. The Coalition of Free Worlds, they called it. 12 species united against the Empire. Yura and Doyun were chosen as its leaders, not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they represented something new, a Velari and a human standing side by side. Later that night, Dohyun found Yura standing alone on an observation deck. She was staring out at the stars. "You did well today," he said. "I confessed my people's crimes and asked our victims to trust me." She laughed softly. "I am not sure that counts as doing well." "It counts." He stood beside her. "It takes courage to admit when you are wrong. Even more courage to try to make things right." Yura was quiet for a moment. "Do you really think we can win? Against the entire Empire? Honestly, I do not know, but I know we have to try. And I know that whatever happens, we will face it together." She turned to look at him. In the starlight, her silver skin seemed to glow. "Together," she repeated. "I like the sound of that." Before either of them could say more, Bora appeared in the doorway. Her face was grim. "You need to see this. The Empire just made a move." They followed her to the communications center. A news broadcast was playing on every screen. Emperor Vorath's face filled the display. Behind him, 3 planets burned in the darkness of space. "As punishment for harboring enemies of the Empire," the Emperor declared, "these worlds have been cleansed. Let this be a warning to all who would defy us. There is no hiding from justice." Doyun felt sick. 3 worlds, millions of innocent lives. Beside him, Yura's hands clenched into fists. Her eyes burned with a cold fire he had never seen before. "He did this because of me," she whispered, "because of what we are building. He did this because he is afraid." Doyun put a hand on her shoulder. "And afraid men make mistakes." Bora stepped forward. "The Coalition is asking what we do now. This changes things." Yura turned to face her. When she spoke, her voice was hard as steel. "Tell them we do exactly what we planned. We gather our forces, we spread the truth, and then we make my father pay for every life he has taken." She looked at Dohyun. "The war has begun." He nodded slowly. 3 worlds were dead. The Empire had shown its true face. There was no going back now. The Coalition flagship New Dawn hung in the darkness between stars. Inside its command center, Dohyun studied the holographic display of Valar Prime, the heart of the Empire. "The Imperial Broadcasting Center is here," Bora said, pointing to a tower that rose from the center of the capital city. "Every signal in the Empire goes through this building. If we can take control of it for just 10 minutes, we can broadcast Yura's evidence to every world under Valari rule." "And then?" asked Gren, his scaled arms crossed over his massive chest. "Then the galaxy sees the truth. Every lie the Empire has told. Every crime they have hidden. Their own citizens will learn what their leaders have done in their name." Taku's fur bristled with doubt. "Will it be enough? Knowing the truth does not stop soldiers." "No," Yura said, stepping forward. "But it takes away their reason to fight. The Empire's power comes from belief. Our citizens believe we are righteous. Our soldiers believe they serve a just cause. When they see the truth, that belief will crumble." She looked around the room at the faces of the Coalition leaders. They had come so far together, from 12 escaped prisoners to an alliance that spanned dozens of worlds. But this next step would be the most dangerous of all. "I will not lie to you," she continued. "Many of us will die today. The Empire's defenses are strong. Their soldiers are well trained. We are outnumbered and outgunned." She paused. "But we have something they do not. We have the truth, and we have each other." The leaders nodded. There were no cheers, no grand speeches. They all knew what was coming. They had all made peace with it. "Begin the assault," Dohyun ordered. The battle for Valar Prime was brutal. Coalition ships poured out of jump points all around the planet. Imperial defenders scrambled to respond. The space above the world filled with fire and wreckage. Dohyun led the ground assault personally. 100 volunteers dropped from the sky in landing pods, crashing through the upper atmosphere like falling stars. Most of them made it to the surface. Some did not. The streets of the capital were chaos. Civilians fled in every direction. Soldiers poured out of barracks. Weapons fire turned the ancient city into a battlefield. "The tower is 2 kilometers north," Boris shouted over the noise. She ran beside Do-hyun, a jury-rigged device strapped to her back, the transmitter. Without it, they could not broadcast the truth. They fought their way through block after block. Coalition soldiers fell. So did Imperial guards. The cost was terrible on both sides. Finally, they reached the base of the broadcasting center. The tower stretched up into the sky, its surface covered in transmission arrays. Inside those walls was the equipment that could change everything. "I need 20 minutes, Boris said. 20 minutes to hack their system and upload the evidence." "You will have it," Do-hyun promised. They stormed the building. The lobby was filled with guards. Do-hyun led the charge, weapon blazing. He took a hit to his leg and kept moving. Yura fought beside him, using techniques her former mentor had taught her. Together, they cut a path through the defenders. The elevator was destroyed, so they climbed. Floor after floor, fighting every step of the way. Their numbers shrank. 20 volunteers became 15, then 10, then 7. When they finally reached the control room, only 5 remained. Do-hyun, Yura, Bora, Taku, Gren. Bora went to work immediately. Her fingers flew across alien keyboards, breaking through security protocols, accessing deep systems. Lines of code scrolled across screens faster than anyone could read. 10 minutes, she said. "Just need 10 more minutes." They held the room. Guards tried to break through. Do-hyun and the others pushed them back again and again. Bodies piled at the door. The air filled with smoke. At 8 minutes, Commander Reth appeared. He walked through the chaos like it did not exist. Guards moved aside for him. His eyes were fixed on Yura. "You came," she said. "I had to." His voice was heavy. "I let you go once. My conscience has not given me peace since. Then stand aside. Let us finish this." "You know I cannot." He raised his weapon. "The Emperor is watching. If I let you win, he will destroy everything I love. And if you stop us, he will destroy everything else." They faced each other, teacher and student. 2 beings who had once been almost family, now standing on opposite sides of a war. Yura lowered her weapon. "I will not fight you. Then you will die. Maybe, but I will not become like them. I will not kill someone I love to win." Reth's hand trembled. The weapon wavered. For a long moment, everything hung in balance. Then he fired. The shot went wide, hitting the wall beside Yura's head. "Run," he whispered. "Finish what you started, and never tell anyone what happened here." He turned and walked away. The guards, confused, did not stop him. Bora's voice cut through the silence. "Done! The broadcast is ready!" Yura ran to the main console. The evidence was loaded. Every crime, every secret, every hidden atrocity. All of it waiting to be shown to the galaxy. Her hand hovered over the transmit button. Then alarm screamed. "What is happening?" Do-hyun demanded. Bora's face went pale. "The Emperor. He is ordering orbital bombardment. He would rather destroy his own capital than let the truth come out." Do-hyun looked out the window. High above, Imperial warships were turning their weapons toward the surface, toward the city, toward millions of innocent Valari civilians who had no idea what their Emperor was about to do. "Can we stop it?" Yura asked. "The only way to stop orbital bombardment is to destroy the weapon arrays. And the only ship close enough to do that is—" Bora trailed off. "Is our shuttle?" Do-hyun finished. He looked at the small vessel still sitting on the landing pad outside, the same ship that had carried them from the flagship. Everyone understood what he was saying. The shuttle could reach the weapon arrays. It could disable them, but it would not survive the attack. "No," Yura said immediately. "There has to be another way." "There is not time." Do-hyun was already moving toward the window. "Press the button. Broadcast the truth. I will handle the rest." Yura grabbed his arm. "I will not let you do this." He turned to face her. They had known each other for less than a year, but in that time she had become everything to him. Partner, friend, something more that neither of them had ever spoken aloud. "You have to," he said gently. "This is bigger than either of us. If the truth gets out, everything changes. If it does not, everything we have done means nothing. I cannot lose you. You will not." He smiled. "Humans are hard to kill. You should know that by now." Before she could stop him, he kissed her forehead. Then he was gone, sprinting toward the landing pad. Bora was crying. There might be a way. If I modify the shuttle's ejection system, do it, Yura ordered. Do whatever you can. Do-Yun reached the shuttle and lifted off. The small ship rose through the smoke and fire, climbing toward the stars where death waited. The Imperial weapons charged with deadly light. His comm crackled. Bora's voice. I uploaded an ejection protocol. The ship will throw you clear before impact. It might work. Do-Yun, Do-Yun, can you hear me? Answer me. He switched off the comm. He could not afford distractions now. The weapons were ahead. Massive arrays pointed at the planet below, at his friends, at Yura. He pushed the engines to maximum. The shuttle struck the first weapon array like a meteor. The explosion lit up the sky. Chain reactions tore through the other arrays. One by one, the orbital weapons died. In the broadcasting center, Yura pressed the transmit button. Across the Empire, billions of screens flickered. The evidence began to play. Every secret, every lie, every hidden crime. The truth poured out like a flood that could not be stopped. And in orbit above the planet, wreckage fell through the darkness. A small figure drifted among the debris, unconscious and barely alive, pulled from the shuttle at the last possible moment by a system he had not known existed. Bora's modification had worked, but no one knew it yet. On Valar Prime, Yura watched the sky burn and felt her heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. The truth was free. The cost was everything. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Valar Prime. The Empire was broken, not destroyed. It still controlled 100 worlds, but broken in a way that could never be healed. The truth had spread like fire through dry grass. Citizens who had believed in their leaders for generations suddenly saw the blood on their hands. Some systems held on to the old ways. Generals and governors who had too much to lose declared loyalty to Emperor Vorath, but many more had turned away in disgust. Planet after planet joined the coalition. What had started as a rebellion of escaped prisoners was now a movement that spanned the galaxy. Yura stood at the window of her quarters on the coalition station. She was watching the stars as she did every night. Somewhere out there, wreckage still floated in the darkness above Valar Prime. The remains of a shuttle that had saved millions of lives. The remains of the man she had loved. 6 months. It still felt like yesterday. She still saw his face when she closed her eyes. Still heard his voice telling her that humans were hard to kill. A knock at her door pulled her from her thoughts. Enter. Bora stepped inside. The human engineer looked tired. They all looked tired these days. Building a new government from the ashes of the old was exhausting work. The council meeting is in an hour, Bora said. They want to discuss the peace negotiations with the remaining Imperial systems. I will be there. Bora did not leave. She stood in the doorway, shifting her weight from foot to foot. What is it? Yura asked. There is something else. Something I did not want to tell you until I was sure. Bora took a deep breath. We found him. Yura's heart stopped. What? A salvage crew found a life pod drifting in the debris field above Valar Prime. It was damaged, almost dead, but there was someone inside. Bora's voice cracked. He is alive, Yura. Do-Yun is alive. The world blurred. Yura grabbed the wall to keep herself upright. How is that possible? The ejection system I installed, I never told him about it because I knew he would disconnect it. Stubborn fool wanted to be a hero. Tears were running down Bora's face. The pod was programmed to activate automatically at the moment of impact. It threw him clear just before the shuttle hit the weapons array. Where is he? Medical bay on deck 7. He is... Bora hesitated. He is not in good shape. 6 months of low oxygen and minimal life support. He is awake but weak. The doctors are not sure. Yura was already running. The corridors of the station blurred past her. She did not wait for elevators. She took stairs, 3 at a time. Her legs burned, but she did not care. Deck 7, medical bay. The doors slid open, and there he was. Do-Yun lay in a bed at the far end of the room. He was thin, terribly thin, and his skin was pale as paper. Tubes connected him to machines that beeped softly. Scars covered his arms where the explosion had burned him, but his eyes were open, and when he saw her, he smiled. Hey, he said. His voice was barely a whisper. Did I miss anything important? Yura crossed the room in 3 steps. She fell to her knees beside his bed, grabbed his hand and pressed it against her face. She was crying. She never cried. You idiot, she choked out. You absolute fool. You were supposed to be dead. Humans are hard to kill. He squeezed her hand weakly. I told you that. She laughed through her tears. I hate you. No, you do not. No, she admitted. I do not. They stayed like that for a long time. Neither of them spoke. There were no words for what they felt. There was only the miracle of being together again. Eventually, Bora appeared in the doorway. She was smiling, but her eyes were serious. The council, she reminded them gently. Yura wiped her eyes and stood. I have to go. There is work to do. I know. Doyun's eyes were already closing. He was exhausted. Save the galaxy. I will take a nap. She leaned down and kissed his forehead, just as he had kissed hers before his final flight. Rest. Recover. When you wake up, I will tell you everything you missed. Is it a lot? You have no idea. The council meeting was long and difficult. Representatives from a dozen species argued about borders, resources, and the fate of captured Imperial officers. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted reconciliation. Finding balance was almost impossible. But Yura guided them through it. She listened to every voice. She acknowledged every grievance. She reminded them again and again why they had come together in the first place. We did not fight to become new oppressors, she told them. We fought to be free. And freedom means giving others the same chance we took, the chance to choose something better. In the end, they agreed on a framework. Not perfect, nothing involving so many different peoples ever was. But it was a start. 2 weeks later, Doyun was strong enough to walk. Yura took him to a small human colony world that had been one of the first to join the coalition. They stood together on a hillside overlooking a quiet valley. In the distance, children were playing. Their laughter drifted up on the warm breeze. Below them, a memorial had been built, a simple stone pillar engraved with names. The crew of humanity's first diplomatic vessel, the colonists of the horizon, all the humans who had died before the war even started. Yura placed a Vellery mourning flower at the base of the monument. It was a gesture her people had used for thousands of years, a way of honoring the dead. They would be proud of you, she said, all of them. Doyun was quiet for a moment. He was thinking about Captain Park, who had believed in peace until his final breath, about the friends he had lost before ever reaching the Empire, about the future they had all dreamed of but would never see. Maybe, he said finally, or maybe they would just be happy that someone survived, that the mission was not a complete failure. It was not a failure at all. Yura turned to look at him. Because of what they did, what you did, the galaxy is changing. Species that were enemies are learning to work together. Beings who never had hope are starting to believe in something. She gestured at the valley below, at the children playing, at the homes being built, at the life that was growing in a place that had once been empty. This is what they died for. This is what we fought for, a chance for something new. Doyun looked out at the valley. For a long time, he did not speak. Then he reached out and took Yura's hand. You know, he said, when I woke up in that medical bay, the first thing I thought about was not the war. It was not the Empire or the Coalition or any of that. What was it? I thought about you, about whether you were safe, about whether I would see you again. He turned to face her. That is when I knew. Knew what? That whatever happens next, rebuilding, peace talks, all of it, I want to face it with you, not as leaders of a coalition, not as symbols of some revolution, just as us. Yura's eyes glistened. You are very bad at speeches. I know, he smiled. Is that a yes? She answered by kissing him. Properly this time, not a hurried farewell before battle, a kiss with all the time in the world behind it. When they finally broke apart, they stood together and watched the sun set over the valley. The sky turned orange and gold and purple. The first stars began to appear. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching. Not as the home of monsters or vermin, but as the birthplace of something remarkable. A species that refused to give up. That took bullets for strangers. That inspired even their enemies to become something better. Humans. The story was just beginning. But for now, for this one perfect moment, Do-hyun and Yira simply stood hand in hand and watched the dawn of a new age. Together, the way it was always meant to be.